So today's vlog is going to be a bit different than most. I make these vlogs to bring you guys into my everyday life, sharing experiences in some sort of fun, creative way. And in that, I want you guys to know more about my story and who I am. So my two goals for today's vlog are share my story with you, and then also share what's next with you, which it's something pretty big and I'm really stoked on. As I make this, it's Thursday, March 24th, 2016, and today is very significant, but a lot of my story has to do with why today is so significant. So let me share my story with you guys. I was born in Kentucky. My mom worked at a hospital, my dad was a band director, and my sister was born when I was 7. All my family is musically talented. In fact, a lot of my life was based around music, and that's sort of what this first part of my story is about. I lived in Kentucky until I was 7, and then we moved to Oregon because my dad was changing professions. I liked Oregon, and this was my first time in the Pacific Northwest, which will become more prominent later in the story. After 5th grade, we moved to Ohio for only a year. I did band for a year here, playing the trumpet. After a year there, we moved to Tennessee. We lived there for 2 years, and it wasn't bad. And recalling how much we loved Oregon, a job opened up for my dad in Washington, and we were on our way back to the Northwest, which is where we'll spend most of the story. We arrived in Washington, moved into our first house there, and I started high school. During my freshman year, I may have illegally played online poker, made about $1,000, and cashed out to buy a drum set, but you can't prove that. I started taking lessons and doing more with drums, and I also played guitar and piano, and still do today. And this is where music starts to become my life. After 2 years in the first house, we moved 30 minutes north, and I started junior year at a new high school. I joined band doing drumline and jazz band. I was investing most of my time into music at this point, staying up till 3 a.m. watching music theory videos, taking lessons, playing at festivals, and some friends and I even started a jazz combo. Senior year, I even dropped regular classes to take even more music classes. More jazz band, honors wind ensemble, drumline, spending lunchtime in the practice rooms and our school traveling across state and even to New York one time to play in Carnegie Hall. With all this, I even got accepted into Central Washington for music education. Music was my life, and for sure going to be my career. But things change. In Washington, you used to have to do something called a senior project. In short, it's spending 40 hours on a project having to do with what your career is going to be. So I decided to write an entire big band arrangement for my senior project. It was new, awesome, and exciting, but that quickly changed. The 40 hours required became 153 hours invested in this project, and about 150 of them I did not enjoy. All this stuff on this piece of paper right here, this was my whole life up to this point, and pretty much all of it points towards music. And now, all of a sudden, I didn't want music to be my life anymore. Second semester of senior year, second period class, I take Digital Photo 1. This is where my story begins to change. Although I goofed around in that class and didn't learn too much, my teacher was great and I grew to enjoy taking photos. I got a PowerShot camera from my grandma and an iPhone in which I downloaded Instagram and started posting photos there. As the school year came to an end, I graduated and got a 60D. I kept shooting, kept posting, not thinking much of it really. At this time I really got into hiking and the outdoors as well, which went hand in hand with photos. And also at this time I worked at Cold Stone and eventually started working at Papa Murphy's too. To be honest, after music fell through, I had no clue what I was doing in life. Photography was neat, but people informed me that I couldn't make a living off of it. And after all, I needed a good, safe career like them, with benefits and a stable income, so I could save up enough money one day to sit comfortably on my ass when I'm retired and too old to move. So I kept working for the next few years like a responsible, comfortable member of society. In my free time, I got into rock climbing. I watched movies about these guys who literally all they do is climb, sacrificing most comforts to live out of their car or van and just go climbing, and I really like the sound of that freedom. It's 2013, and I end up doing a year-long internship at the church I was going to. There I connect with the man, the myth, the legend, Dave. He was the creative arts guy there, and in 2014 I do a separate summer internship with him and start learning how to make videos, take better photos, and eventually start doing contract work for his company, upgrade my camera gear, and still shooting my own things here and there. This is where I start to see how I could make a living off of creative work, but it wasn't exactly the freedom I was looking for. Oh, and I also worked at Starbucks at this point, too. December 2014, I get a text from a close friend and the co-owner of that same company. Basically, they want to train me up and have me working as a graphic designer in there. And I'm stoked, and this is what I wanted. Kind of. January 2015, I take a big risk. I quit Starbucks solely to make this graphic design thing work out and give it my all. In the background, I'm going out and shooting a lot more, posting to Instagram, and I begin to see things pick up there. One day, my bud hits me up and says, "Hey, we are going to Lake 22, and Sam is going with us." This is Sam. He's a photographer I've looked up to for a long time, and actually I said no at first. I had previous plans and had to get things done. I pushed it aside, changed my mind, and went. Looking back, this was probably one of the greatest decisions I have ever made in my life. This hike is kind of the starting point for me in my photography career, and now Sam is one of my best friends and still one of my favorite photographers. Really, this next part is hard to explain, but so far it's the best part of my story. The graphic design thing slowly fizzled out and everything kind of just happened. When doing Instagram in the background, it accidentally kind of became my thing. But I worked really hard at it, and I was posting photos constantly, and I started picking up jobs and weddings, and momentum kept building, more people kept following my work, and out of nowhere, photo and video became my life, and all of a sudden I'm traveling to places, shooting photos, learning, filming, meeting incredible people. I'm working harder, thinking bigger, loving life, becoming more motivated to do more, and then one day I realize, work or play, there's always a camera in hand. Now I do what I love for work, and I make enough to be comfortable. I'm doing just fine, and I don't really have to worry about things. But I was comfortable and doing just fine at Starbucks too. And doing just fine is not what this is about. It's about pushing your limits and exceeding them. Once you find your limit, you're doing something wrong. You're not improving, and that's not what I want. When you put yourself out there on a risk where you can't fail, you have no choice but to succeed. Today is March 24th, 2016. A day I've been looking forward to for a long time. About 20 minutes after I post this video, I'm leaving. I'm going to live out of my 2006 Toyota Prius. Sleeping, cooking, driving, sightseeing, doing photos and videos, meeting people, and just doing everything and living out of this car. It's something I've wanted to do for years, and it's a risk, and nothing is guaranteed. It's scary, and this doesn't leave much room for failure. But I really don't know what success would mean either. So one other thing, I'm going to be documenting this trip a ton through Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, Vine, all that stuff to try to bring you guys along. This trip doesn't have much of an end goal, so I'm really stoked to see where that takes me. Stay tuned, stay stoked. My first stop is Palouse Falls. Peace. So this clip wasn't planned for the vlog. That last clip you just watched, I probably read it about 56 times and still screwed it up because I forgot, because I forgot to mention the one thing that I am most stoked about. During the course of this trip, I'm taking this camera with me and I'm going to be vlogging the whole thing.